guys, Samarpan this side, back again with a new tutorial video. In this video, we are going to learn the email authentication through Firebase in our Flutter app. So let's start the tutorial. So for integrating Firebase in your Flutter app, what we have to do first, we have to definitely create a Flutter app. So what I have to do, so we have to first open the folder where we want to make a Flutter app. Then in that folder, open the terminal, and under the terminal, what we have to do, you have to write a command to create your Flutter project. So I write Flutter create and org, the organization, and we want to make the package name here. So here I write com.auth, and then we have to write app name. So here I write learning auth. Okay, then we have to click on enter to create your project in Flutter with that package and app name. Okay, so as you can see, this is totally done. The app is created here. So if I close the terminal here, and here as I can see, the project is created, name as learning auth, that we created from the terminal. I open the project, and I want to open the project from the terminal to the VS Code so that I can open that folder in the VS Code. Okay, now that project is open in the VS Code. Now we have to install some of the packages that will help us to for that authentication of email and password. So what we have to do, we have to switch to the pub.dev, and in the pub.dev, go to the that package Firebase code, and we have to install that package. So I just copy that package name from here and go to the prospect.yaml from the project, and under the dependency section I paste it here. In the same way, we have to install that package Firebase auth that is available in the pub.dev. Go to the installing section of it, and I copy the package name from here, and I also paste it here. As we know, after that we have to do the Flutter pub get. So we have to write here Flutter pub get. So as you can see, the package is getting installed in our app. Now we have to create a new project in the Firebase and have to connect that project from that our project. Okay, so for that I just open that Android manifest.xml because we need it recently. So that's our package name we created here manually when we create the project from the terminal. Now what we have to do, we have to switch to that Firebase. So we have to come that console.firebase.google.com and open from your preferred email where you want to do that Firebase project. After that, you have to click on that add project, and here you have to give your project name. Okay, now we have to call on that continue button, and here there is analytics, all of the things. So I have to just continue it, select default account for the Firebase, create the project, and that will take a few seconds to create the project. As you can see, our Firebase project is created. Now we can click on the continue, and that will take a few seconds to open your project that you just created. So that the project is already open. I don't want to receive any email updates as of now. So after that, what you have to do, you can register as many apps as you want. So in that video, we just want to register the Android app through the Firebase. So what we have to do for that, we have to click on that Android icon. We have to provide the Android package name. So we copied that Android package name from that Android manifest.xml. So now we have to paste it here. We have to give the app name as learning auth, and we don't need to provide SHA1 as of now. We will provide it later. Now after click on register app, it will take a few seconds for that registering the app. Then you don't have to download Google services.json as of now because there is some configuration is needed. So after that, click on next, and then we have to make that changes in our code. So we have to open that project level build.gradle, and that the two things, Google Mobile Central is by default present in the latest version of the Flutter. So we have to just copy that permission, and what we have to do, we have to come to the project level build.gradle, not the app level build.gradle, and here after that dependencies we have to paste it here. Okay, now let's come back here, and here I choose here Kotlin. By default that Kotlin is chosen. So after the app level build.gradle, we have to do all of these things. So I just copy that permission from here and go to the app level build.gradle. Under that app level build.gradle, under the dependency section, I paste it here, and also I have to copy the another things here, that the implementation, and I also paste it here. Okay, now one more thing, here you can see plugins ID that is coming in that way. So what we have to do here, instead of writing it in that way, we can write it manually here in the other form. Okay, so that will be helpful to you. Now here after that apply from, what we have to do, we have to paste that apply plugin com.google.gms.google services. Actually that is the copy of that things is written here, and that com.android.application is already written here in our project, so we don't have to re-add it again. Okay, now after that you have to click on the next, and then we can go to the console. Now there is some things is left. We have to come to the project settings here, and there is we have to provide the SHA1 and SHA256 key. For that, what we have to do, just before you can support mail, you can select here, and here you can select the public facing name. So here I write learning auth. Now there is a catch that for generating SHA1 and SHA256 key, you can open that project in the Android Studio to manually running the Gradle build, because by default when the project is run, the Gradle build operation is running, and that sometimes give the error due to that different complex configuration. So we can manually run the Gradle build so that it will be help us to download it easily. Okay, now what we should do, we just open that project in the Explorer. Now let's open that project in the Android Studio. So guys, I opened that learning auth project in the Android Studio. You can pause the video and open that app in the Android Studio, because we have to do some steps from the Android Studio itself. Okay, now after opening the app in the Android Studio, we have to switch to the Android folder, and under that app and any of the build.gradle, maybe app level or project level build.gradle. Okay, now what we have to do here, we have to now click on that button, open for editing in Android Studio. That option will be come only from the Android Studio, not from the Visual Studio Code. So when we click on that, a new window will be open, or maybe there is a pop-up will be came here from your side. Make sure you click on that new window button, that will open in a new window. And as you can see at the bottom, that Gradle build operation is performing. So here we manually make that Gradle build operation. Okay, so let's wait, because the Gradle build operation takes a few minutes of time to getting completed. So let's wait for that. So guys, as you can see, the Gradle build operation is now going to complete, and that about the some scanning of the files and some import of the files is going on. So now finally the Gradle build operation is complete. Now we can close that new open window in the Android Studio, so that we can open with the freshly open existing one. Now here what we have to do, we have to open the Android Studio terminal, and here we have to write cd android, and here we have to write Gradle w sign in report. So that command is helpful for us to find out the SHA1 and SHA256 key. So if I click on here, that will take a few seconds to generate SHA1 and SHA256 key. So the SHA1 and SHA256 key is generated, but keep in mind one thing, that is key is very much confidential, so don't export it publicly. So use it very much accordingly. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to copy that SHA1 key, go to the Firebase project settings, come here at the add fingerprint, paste it here, save it here. SHA1 key is saved. Now what we have to do, we have to same way copy the SHA256 key here, now save it here. Okay, so the two keys added in the Firebase console. Now we can add that Google services.json in our project. So we download the file here. I just download it in the desktop as of now. And what we have to do, we have to add that Google services.json in our project. So what we have to do, I got it, and under that Android, or what we can do, that the project is open in the Explorer already. Under that Android app level, we just paste it here under that app folder. Okay, now as we added that Firebase configuration again in our Flutter app, it is recommended to run open for editing in Android Studio, because that will be help you to regenerate the Gradle build, so that in the runtime you don't have to wait many times. Okay, as you can see here, now it's not take too much of the time, because in the previous time the Gradle build already there. So as the Gradle build is done, so we can close that, and we also close that Android Studio window as well, because the rest of the work we will do from the Visual Studio Code. Okay, now what we have to do, as we added Google services.json and all of the packages is installed, we have to come to the library folder. Here we have to make a main screen.dart file. Here we have to make a new screen where we will deal with email and password for the UI purposes as well. So I minimize the terminal. Here I import our favorite package name as material.dart, and here I make a stateful widget name as main screen, as I done before. And after that, from that we have to return the careful. We have to make a background color, that will be colors.white, and we have to provide a body having the container. Here we have to write width of it, so media query dot of context dot size dot width, and also having the height of media query dot of context dot size dot height. Okay, now after that what we have to do, we have to make a significant pace from horizontally and vertically so that it will be looking good. So it's in center symmetry, horizontal 10 and vertical 15, and after that we have to make a child name as column, and here in that column what we have to do, before giving the children we have to make sure the content will be at the center of the screen. So main axis alignment dot center, and here in the children we will have to make some text field for taking input from the user. But before making all of the things, I want to just wrap it with the form. So that form actually you can compare as a HTML form, where of that user input and validation, all of the things is going on, that is basically done in a form. So we have to now access that form state. So that way we have to provide the key. In every widget in the Flutter there is a key is present, so that is a unique controller for that widget. So we have to control the state of that form, so we want to provide the key. So how can we provide the key? Here we have to declare the key here. So here I write global key, and that will be type of form state, and I give the key name as form key, and here I write global key, and that will be of form state. Okay, now we have to provide that form key here in that form key parameter. We have to come to the main.dart file, and in that main.dart file we don't need any of that code. So I just remove that class stateful widget, but we need that stateless widget to, so we just remove that unnecessary things, and from the home we have to call the main screen. Okay, that main screen also important. Now we have to change the title as learning auth, and we can provide one thing, debug so checkboard banner false. Now what we have to do, we have to import a package that we install in our prospect.yml, that is Firebase core.dart. Okay, now we have to initialize that Firebase project in our Flutter app. So firebase.initialize app, as this is a await process, so that will be asynchronous, and the void main will be future of void main. And as I said in one of the video before, if you running anything before the run app, we have to use widget flutter binding.ensure initialize. Here in the main screen, before running any text field under the children, let's run the project so that we can live enjoy about making a fancy text field. Okay, now let's open the terminal, and in the terminal we have to run our favorite command to run the project, that is flutter run. That will take a few minutes to run the project, as the packages we install is very heavy. Okay, so let's wait for that. So guys, as our project is started, and here you can see we make a empty screen that is showing here. Now we have to make a fancy text field. So what I should do here, we have to make 2 or 3 text fields. So I make here a common method for that. So here I write common text field, so that will be text form field. Keep this thing in mind, because we are using that, we are going to use that text form field under that form. So we have to use text form field. Cursor color, that will be colors.black, and here we have to put the decoration, input decoration, and hint text here. And we have to provide the hint text style, so that will be text style having the font size of 14 and having the color of that colors.black 26, so that it will be showing as a hint text. Okay, let's call it from that column so that we can show it at live. So from that children I write here common text field, and hint text is email, because we are doing email and password authentication, so we have to take the email. And now we have to make a hot reload of it. As we can see, the email is showing enable border, so that will be type of input border, outline input border, and here we have to provide the properties. So border radius, I want to provide the border radius of circular, and that will be 16, and side of the border is border side, and that border side having a color of colors.black. Okay, now if I make a hot reload here, As you can see, that text field is having rounded and showing very much good. So after that enable border, what we have to do, if we click on here, you can see that border style is changed because now the text field is focused. So you have to provide the focus border, and we have to provide in that way. Okay, that will be focus border, not color. Okay, now what we have to do for the focus border, but there is chance that someone maybe written the email in the wrong form. So for that, what we have to do, we have to write error border, and here we have to just copy paste the stuff, but here the color will be changed, red, defining the error. Okay, if we make a hot reload here, as you can see in the focused form it is showing good, and if I write here something, that will be showing good. But make sure that whatever written in that email text field, that will be should email. For that we have to validate that validator, that will be return the input value that is written in the text field, that will be written. So we have to check if input value is empty, then we have to return it. Okay, that input value can be null, so we have to write in that way. Okay, so we have to write in that way, if input value is null, then we have to return provide a valid email. Okay, and that is true for input value is null and input value is empty. Now we have to provide a regex that will validate the user given email, that if the email format is correct or not. So we can provide the regex here. So that regex is maybe some dangerous for you at for the first time. You don't have to remember any of that regex. You can take the code from the GitHub, the link in the description, check it out. So that the email regex, that will verify if the user given data is type of email or not. So how can we check with that? We have to write email regex, and we have to write hash match, and now we have to provide whatever user written here in that text field. Okay, so how can we do that? And one more thing here, we don't have to provide that validator method here, validator method definition here, because that this is a common text field, so that is not only for use for the email, that is also used for the password as well. Okay, so we have to take that validator here. So I write required and that thing. Okay, now instead of that stuff, I just copy it from here, and here I write validator. Okay, now what we have to do here, you have to provide the validator as well. Now we have to provide that required parameter validator, and here I write email validator, and now we have to make it method at the bottom of the class. So here I write, instead of that p1, I write here input value, and I just paste it here. So I can remove that, and I also remove that. Okay, now if the input will be matched with that email regex format, if that is not matched, first thing, if that is not matched, we have to return here about email format not correct. Okay, and if the email format is correct, then we have to return null. When that is returning null, that means all of the condition is satisfied. Okay, now one more thing here, we have to provide the input that is written, that user will be write in that email text field. So how can we take that from here? We see in the old video, for taking the content from the text field, we have to provide a text editing controller. So here I make a text editing controller of email controller about text editing controller, and that will be used for and another will be used for that password controller, because the password also we need it. So password controller. Okay, when you dispose the method, dispose the widget from that screen, just before the dispose, we have to write here email controller dot dispose and that password controller dot dispose, so that it can remove from the memory as well. Okay, in text, and that we take the text editing controller. So here we have to write the controller, and here we have to provide that controller under that parameter, and that variable name controller we are taking as a named parameter. Now here, before that optional required parameter, we have to provide the email controller here, and that email controller will be copied to here in that variable, and that will be assigned here. So here we have to provide input value here. We can provide the input value here, or else we can provide here email controller dot text here. Just like your choice, you can provide whatever you want. Okay, just like that. After that, we have to provide a size box of it. So we have to provide the size box of 20. That will be decent. And after that, we have to make another common text field for the password as well. But there is a catch here. So let's make it password, and instead of the email controller, that will be the password controller, and here that will be password validator. Okay, now we have to make that password validator method at the bottom of the class, and here also we provide here the input value. Now what we have to do, the minimum length of the password is required is 6, so we have to check that. But before that, we can take the copy of it, and we have to check if input value dot length less than 6. So we have to show the message password must be at least 6 characters, and that condition is satisfied here. Then we have to return null. As you know, in that password there is a cache. You can show or hide the password. So for that, what we have to do, we have to make here rule is show password, that we don't want to show it by default, so we write here is show password false. Okay, and here we have to make rule show text, that is by default true. Okay, so what we have to do here, we have to use that obscure text, and here we have to write show text. Okay, so obscure text will be help us to show or hide the text here. Okay, but how can we control that variable value is so passwords true or false? So for making the functionality of show or hide password, we have to add the suffix icon. So under that input decoration, we have to provide the suffix, and we have to provide the icon button here. So now we provide the suffix icon here, that will be if the password is showing, that will be show that icon, and if the password is not showing, that will show that icon. Okay, now but we have to keep the things in mind that will be show by default in case of password, not in case of email. So we have to provide here a parameter, optional parameter rule is suffix icon show, so that will be by default false. So here I have to write is suffix icon show. If that is having the permission, then we have to show. If that is having not the permission, then we have to make it null, that is it's by default because the suffix is nullable. Okay, so if that permission is not giving, it will pass null, and if the permission is given, that the dynamic button will be shown here. Okay, now what we have to do, in that password we have to provide that is suffix icon show. So yes, that's for the password, and show text actually used for obscure of things. Okay, so what we have to do, so show text, that will be for is show password. Okay, now what we have to do, when we click on that, we have to check if the widget can be updated or not. So if the widget is not mounted, we can return it, and if that is mounted, so we have to make set state and is show password. We have to just insert the opposite value of that current value of is show password. Okay, now what we have to do, as we make changes many things here, I can make a hot restart here. Now you can see that email and password is showing. So we can if we write here anything, and if we click on that icon, that will be by default height, and if we click on that, that will show here. So I think there is some problem is happening, because is show password by default false. So is show password false. Okay, so that obscure text value will be opposite of show text. Okay, now if we make a hot reload here, and here instead of the suffix you can make the suffix icon as well. Okay, now if we make a hot reload, now the icon is showing, and if we click on that, that will be changing in that way. Just like when that is showing, we click on that hide button, that is getting hide, and when it is hide, we click on the show button, it is showing here. Okay, you can also provide the icon color as well. So if I provide the colors of black as of now, if we make a hot reload, that icon color of the suffix is getting changed. Okay, now we can provide the email, but we have to validate that. So we make the validated function, but it is not running as of now because we have to do from a button. So after that, what we have to do, we have to make two buttons, sign up and sign in, because by default we provide the email that will be not present in our Firebase console, so that will be not getting logged in. So we have to first sign up, then we can do sign in. Okay, now for making the two buttons, I write here a common button, and that button will take a text, that is button text, and a method that will be called during tap on that button. So that will be void callback, and that will be on tap manually. I write here the method name here in that way. Okay, write it here, and we have to call that common button from here of that column. Okay, so here I write common button, the text will be the first text will be sign in, and here we have to pass the another method for sign in. Okay, now if we make here another method at the bottom of that class, that will be good enough. We will do the further work later. Now here we have to make a decent button here, so not a fancy button. So on press method here is present, and here in that on press method we have to not doing nothing manually. That on tap method we have to just assign. So here I write on tap manually, and here we have to provide that text that is coming, that will be considered as a bottom text. And here if I write style here, and if I make a text style of font size, that will be 18, and having the font weight of bold, so that it will be looking good in the video itself. Now if I make a hot reload here, okay, I make a typo here, constant, and if we make a hot reload here, as you can see sign in button is showing. I can make the font size of 20 so that it will be looking good. Now in the same way, what you have to do here, come under that column, and you have to just make a copy of it, and instead of sign in, that next button will be sign up. Okay, now if I make a hot reload of it, as you can see sign in and sign up button is showing here. Okay, now what we want, when we click on sign in and sign up button, it will first check if the validator for the email and password satisfy all the condition or not. If all the condition is satisfied, then we will further do the further work. So now what we have to do, we have to come here under that sign in, and here sign in we have to write form key dot current state dot validate. Okay, and that can be null, so we can tell the Flutter don't consider it null as of now. So if the form state is not validated, that means that means at least one condition of email and password is not satisfied. Okay, we have to return here. We don't have to show the message because we already return. We have to show the message here already, that will be reflected in our screen. Okay, now what we have to do, if we make a hot reload, and if I just click on that sign in, here you can see provide a valid email is showing. So here I write, here it is showing by default the normal border. So what you have to do here, you give here 3 types of border, but there is another parameter present, that is border. We have to just provide that as well. I just copied all of the things and I paste it here, and if I make a hot reload here, that the border is showing. Now we have to provide the email. So here I just give a random email here as of now. The email format is okay, so we can click on that sign in, and the password is of the 6 character or more than it, so it is showing not error. So if I write 1 character password and click on the sign in, it is showing password must be at least 6 character. Okay, so that means that our validator is working fine. Okay, and come back to the sign in method. There is two method is calling. Okay, so that will be sign up. Okay, and we have to make the method here at the bottom of the screen and copy that validator checking things. Now if we make a hot reload here and if we click on that, okay, now that two things is both fine, but now there is a catch. When we click on the sign in method and that sign in will be happening through the Firebase, it will take a bit of seconds, so we have to make a loader here so that user will be not getting confused. So for using a loader, what we have to do, we have to come to the pub.dev, and in the pub.dev we have to search a package named as loading overlay. So we have to use that package that will show a full screen loading over the content, not hiding the content. That is the main thing. So we just close the project, and here in the prospect.yaml, here we have to paste it loading overlay, and we have to install the package with Flutter pub get. It will take a few seconds to install the package. Our package is installed. We can run our project again, so it will take a bit of seconds. So let's wait for that. So guys, our project is started again. Now what we have to do, come to the main screen, and I just decrease the terminal size so that we can work with the project file extensively. Now what we have to do, we have to wrap that container that is present under that scaffold with that newly installed package that is loading overlay. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to come to the forward top of it, and we have to write here loading overlay dot dart. Okay, now here in that loading overlay we have to provide is it is loading or not. So for that we have to provide a variable here. We have to declare a variable here name as is loading, and by default the loading will not run in our app, so we have to write is loading false. So I write here is loading, and here I have to write the progress indicator that will be circular progress indicator by default here in the app. The catch is that when the circular progress indicator will be running, that will not remove that entire content, that will run at the top of the screen. Okay, so that's the main thing of that loading overlay. Okay, now one more thing here, before writing any code here, what we have to do, we have to come back to the Firebase project, and here under that build we have to click on the authentication. We have to activate the email and password authentication. Click on the get started, and it will take a few seconds. Now we have to click on that email and password. We have to enable that. We don't need email link passwordless sign in, so we have to save it here. And here you can see email and password is enabled. So when a new user will be sign up for here, that the user data will be show here. Now what we have to do, we have to import the package we already installed in our prospect.yaml, that is Firebase auth. Okay, so here I write Firebase auth, and here what we have to do, in the sign up method, let's work at the sign up method. So what we have to do here, we have to write Firebase auth dot instance dot sign in with email and password. Okay, now here we have to provide the email and password. So the email we take from the email controller, so email controller dot text, and password we will take from the password controller dot text. Okay, now before running that, make sure the loading is already started, because it will take us some bit of time to complete that sign up process. And when that will be complete, that the things will be so there. Okay, so when that will be sign in, that will return the user credentials. So unique user ID and user data will be created after, not with the sign in but with the sign up. Create user with email and password, not sign in. Okay, so because we are signing up here. Okay, so here we have to make the function as asynchronous, and we have to make here the user create. Okay, because that create user with email and password will be returned the uniquely created user data and user ID. So what we have to do, in that user create, we can see there is different properties. So here in the user, the email, display name, and all the things is showing here. So after that, when we come at that line, we can ensure that the loading is completed. We can increase the loading, because the user is created already. So what we have to check, if user create dot user dot, that means the user profile with unique ID is created successfully, we have to show a message here, scaffold messenger dot of context dot show snack bar, and that the snack bar contains the content of text that will be so user created successfully. Okay, and one more thing, if that is not present, we have to manage that. So I just take it out from here, and here I check one more thing here, is user profile created, that will be there. So if it is not empty, that means user profile is created. So I can make is user profile created, and if it is not created, we can write here user profile creation failed. Okay, now what we have to do, we can make a hot reload here, and let's see if it is working or not. So I increase the terminal size. Now here we have to write in the email section, just like a dummy email, @gmail.com, and password I keep it simple, Samarpan. Okay, so if we click on that, the password is showing here. If I click on the sign up, as you can see that the loading overlay is going and user created successfully message is coming here. Okay, that means the sign up is successful. Now if I come on here and if I make a refresh in that authentication screen, you will see that user we created samarpan@gmail.com will be shown here. Okay, so the user is showing samarpan@gmail.com. okay, now we have to sign in with that user. Okay, because we are making a profile with the sign up. Now it's time for the sign in, because you can see when you going a website, after the sign up you have to sign in to access the website further. So you have to sign in after that. So for the signing, what we have to do, I just decrease the terminal size so that it will be looking good, and I just copy all of the things here, and I have to paste that content here. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to make that method as asynchronous, because that will be await, and instead of create user with email and password, we have to write sign in with email and password. Okay, and other things is totally same, and here we can say is user sign in. Okay, so here we can check in different way. If the user is signed in, we will show a dialog, then we will return from here, otherwise that message will be show there. So if this is coming here, the message will be show that user login failed, that the perfect message for that, login failed. And as that message is hard coded, we can make it constant. Okay, here I write user data dialog. Now what we have to do, we have to make a method here, show dialog, and we have to provide a builder here. Now here we have to write alert dialog, and here you have to provide two things, title and content, title content. Okay, so that will be taking user email. Now what we can do, we can call, so now in the dialog only the email will be shown if the user is logged in successfully. So now if we make a hot reload here, and if we click on that sign in button, loading overlay is showing, and as you can see in the snack bar bottom, login successful message is showing here. Now as the login successful, the email to which we are signed, that is showing here, email samarpan@gmail.com. okay, so in that way we can do the email and password authentication through Firebase very easily. Hope you love this video. If you love this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe this channel. The next video of the series is coming very soon. Stay tuned for that. Bye.